There's a sound that most men never hear anymore. Complete silence. Not the silence between arguments, not the silence while scrolling your phone next to someone who's upset with you. Not the silence of avoiding conversation because you're too exhausted from managing someone else's emotional state all day. I'm talking about the silence that comes from genuine solitude. The kind where your mind isn't calculating what you need to say next, what you forgot to do, what she might be thinking, or how to navigate the mood that's waiting for you when you get home. Carl Jung discovered something that terrifies people who've never experienced it. There's a kind of peace that exists only in complete autonomy, a psychological state so profound that once you taste it, everything else feels like noise. And the men who have it, the single men living in authentic solitude, they've found something that married men spend their entire lives searching for in all the wrong places. By the end of this exploration, you'll understand why Jung believed solitude wasn't loneliness, but liberation. Why the peace single men experience isn't emptiness but fullness, and why the man sitting alone at the coffee shop, completely content with his own company, has accessed something that no amount of partnership can provide. Maybe you're single, and people keep telling you you're missing out. Or maybe you're in a relationship and can't remember the last time you felt actual peace instead of just the absence of conflict. Either way, what Jung discovered will change everything. Let me describe a moment that happens every single evening in millions of homes. Robert walks through his front door after work. Before he even takes off his jacket, he's already reading the room. Is she in a good mood or bad mood? Did something happen today that he'll need to manage? Are the kids chaos or calm? Is dinner already a source of tension or is tonight going to be easy? His nervous system hasn't relaxed. It's shifted from work mode to home mode. And home mode requires a different kind of constant vigilance. He can't just be. He has to perform, navigate, accommodate, respond. Meanwhile, across town, David walks into his apartment. He closes the door. And something happens that Robert hasn't experienced in years. Nothing. No mood to read. No tension to navigate. No emotional labor waiting to be performed. Just space. Just silence. Just the profound peace of not having to be anything for anyone. David makes exactly the food he wants. He eats it exactly when and how he wants. He spends his evening exactly as he chooses, and his choices answer to no one. No negotiation, no compromise, no silent disappointment to manage. Just pure, uncomplicated existence. Jung spent decades studying what he called individuation, the process of becoming who you actually are, instead of who others need you to be. And he discovered something that society desperately tries to hide. Individuation requires solitude. Not occasional alone time negotiated with a partner. Not stolen moments of peace between obligations. Real solitude. Extended, unapologetic, non-negotiable solitude. The single man has this. The married man doesn't. And that difference, Jung understood, creates two completely different psychological realities. Before you tell me I don't understand partnership, before you explain how beautiful compromise can be, before you list all the ways relationships enrich life, answer this one question with complete honesty. When was the last time you sat in total silence for an entire evening and felt nothing but peace? Not loneliness, not boredom. Not the urge to fill the silence with distraction. Just deep cellular level peace with your own existence. If you're in a relationship and you can't remember, Jung knew exactly why. And what he discovered about the human psyche will reveal why that peace isn't just pleasant, it's essential. Tell me right now, what city are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments because I want to know where in the world people are ready to hear what psychology has been too afraid to say clearly. The peace that single men know is forbidden because acknowledging it destroys the narrative that everyone needs partnership to be complete. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of truth that society suppresses because they threaten comfortable lies. Here's the shadow truth about relationships. They cost peace, not sometimes, always. Even good relationships, even healthy partnerships, even the happiest marriages, they all require you to trade the peace of complete autonomy for the complexity of constant accommodation. The single man kept his peace, he refused the trade. And that refusal, that willingness to choose internal tranquility over external validation, that's what Jung recognized as psychological maturity that most people never achieve. Jung said your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. The married man spends his entire life looking outside, looking at her face to gauge her mood, looking at situations through the filter of how they'll affect the relationship, looking for validation that he made the right choice, looking anywhere except directly into his own heart, because looking there might reveal something terrifying, that he traded his peace for approval. The single man looks inside, he has no choice. There's no one else to look at. And in that looking, in that forced confrontation with his own internal reality, he finds something the married man lost years ago. His actual self, not the performed self, not the husband self, not the accommodating self. His actual self. And that self, when you finally meet it in genuine solitude, brings a peace that no relationship can match. Because it doesn't depend on anyone else's presence, mood, or approval. Let me walk you through the first element of this forbidden peace: mental silence. The single man's mind is his own. When he thinks about what he's actually thinking about, not what he should be thinking about, not what he needs to remember to do, not how to phrase something so it won't cause conflict. Just direct, unfiltered engagement with his own thoughts. The married man's mind is never his own. Even when he's alone, he's mentally preparing for interactions, planning conversations, rehearsing explanations, anticipating needs, managing the relationship even inside his own head. His internal life has become a rehearsal space for his external performance. There's no mental silence, just constant low-level anxiety about maintaining harmony. Jung understood that this mental invasion, this colonization of your internal world by relationship maintenance, it fragments the psyche. You lose the ability to hear your own voice because you're too busy preparing to speak in someone else's language. The single man kept his internal world private, sovereign, completely his own. And in that privacy, he found a mental silence so profound that thoughts can actually complete themselves. Ideas can develop without interruption. The self can speak without translation. That's the first forbidden peace. The peace of a mind that belongs only to itself. The second element is emotional sovereignty. The single man's emotional state is his own responsibility and his alone. When he feels something, he feels it cleanly. He doesn't have to manage how his feelings affect someone else. He doesn't have to suppress his emotional truth to protect someone else's comfort. He doesn't have to perform emotional states he doesn't actually feel. His emotions are direct, authentic, unmediated. The married man's emotions are never purely his own. When he feels frustration, he has to calculate whether expressing it will cause more problems than suppressing it. When he feels joy, he has to temper it if she's having a bad day. When he feels nothing, he has to manufacture something because emotional absence reads as rejection. His emotional life becomes a performance designed to maintain relational equilibrium. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to function socially. The married man lives in his persona constantly. Even at home, especially at home, he's wearing the mask of who he needs to be for the relationship to work. The single man can take off the mask completely. His emotional reality doesn't have to serve any purpose beyond being true. That authenticity, that pure emotional sovereignty. That's the second forbidden peace. The peace of feeling what you actually feel without having to manage how it affects anyone else. The third element is temporal freedom. The single man's time moves at his own pace. He can spend 3 hours on something meaningless just because it interests him. He can abandon plans without negotiation. He can be spontaneous without coordination. His time is fluid, responsive to his actual desires in real time. The married man's time is scheduled, negotiated, allocated. Every hour has been spoken for, if not explicitly, then implicitly. Time for her, time for kids, time for household maintenance, time for social obligations, and somewhere in the margins, if he's lucky, time for himself that feels stolen because it's time he's not giving to everyone who expects it. Jung understood that time is the substance of life itself. How you spend your time is literally how you spend your life. The married man spends his life in service. The single man spends his life in exploration. That's not better or worse necessarily, but it is completely different, and one produces peace while the other produces purpose. They're not the same thing. The fourth element of forbidden peace is decision-making simplicity. The single man makes decisions based on a simple equation. Do I want this or not? That's it, one variable, his own desire. The complexity ends there. The married man makes decisions based on multiple competing variables. Do I want this? Does she want this? Can we afford this given shared finances? Does this align with our shared goals? Will this cause conflict? Is this worth the negotiation it will require? Every single decision, from what to eat for dinner to major life choices, runs through this complex matrix. His desires are just one factor among many, and often not the determining factor. Jung recognized that this decision-making complexity creates constant low-level stress that the married man doesn't even recognize as stress anymore. It's just how decisions work for him now. He's forgotten what it feels like to want something and simply have it, to choose something and simply do it, without the elaborate process of relational negotiation. The single man remembers because he lives it daily. Every decision is clean, direct, simple. Want it, get it done. That's simplicity, that directness of desire to action. That's the fourth forbidden peace, the peace of decisions that don't require committee approval. The fifth element is environmental control. The single man's space is entirely his own. Everything in his environment reflects his choices, his aesthetics, his priorities. Nothing is there because someone else wanted it there. Nothing is arranged to accommodate someone else's preferences. His space is the physical manifestation of his internal world. The married man's space is negotiated territory. Every piece of furniture is a compromise. Every decoration is a balance between his taste and hers. The temperature, the lighting, the noise level, all of it constantly adjusted to accommodate two different nervous systems. His space never fully feels like his because it isn't fully his. It's shared, and sharing means constant micro-surrenders of preference. Jung understood that environment shapes consciousness. When your external space doesn't match your internal preferences, you experience constant friction so subtle you barely notice it. But it accumulates. It wears. The single man eliminated that friction entirely. His external world and internal world are aligned perfectly, because no one else's preferences interfere with that alignment. That's the fifth forbidden peace. The peace of living in a space that reflects only your own truth. The sixth element is the most profound and the most threatening to acknowledge. It's the peace of complete self-knowledge. The single man, living in extended solitude, eventually runs out of distractions from himself. He can't hide from his own nature behind relational dynamics. He can't avoid his shadow by projecting it onto a partner. He can't mistake his persona for his actual self because there's no audience requiring the performance. He has to meet himself directly. This is terrifying initially. Jung called this the dark night of the soul, the confrontation with everything you actually are, beneath the social mask. Most people avoid this confrontation their entire lives. They stay in relationships partly because relationships provide the perfect distraction from self-confrontation. The married man is so busy being a husband, being a partner, managing the relationship that he never has to face the question of who he actually is when no one else is looking. The single man has no escape from this question. Solitude forces the confrontation. And after the initial terror, after working through the shadow, after integrating the parts of himself he was taught to hide, something extraordinary happens. He discovers peace that doesn't depend on anything external. Peace that comes from knowing exactly who he is and accepting that completely. This is what Jung meant by individuation, becoming whole. The married man is fragmented, parts of himself distributed across relational roles and obligations. The single man can achieve wholeness because nothing outside himself is pulling pieces away. That's the sixth forbidden peace, the peace of complete self-knowledge and self-acceptance. The seventh element is existential honesty. The single man lives in existential truth. His life is his responsibility alone. His happiness is his to create or fail to create. His meaning is his to discover or fail to discover. There's no one to blame, no one to credit, no one to hide behind. This is brutal honesty. The married man has existential cover. If his life feels empty, well, at least he has the relationship. If he's unhappy, maybe it's because she doesn't understand him. If he lacks purpose, perhaps he's sacrificing his dreams for the family. The relationship provides endless explanations for why his life isn't what he hoped it would be. Jung understood that this existential dishonesty, this ability to avoid full responsibility for your own existence, by distributing that responsibility across a relationship, it prevents genuine psychological development. You can't become who you actually are when you're constantly explaining why you're not. The single man can't hide from existential responsibility. His life is exactly what he's made it. No excuses, no explanations. Just the pure, unmediated reality of his choices and their consequences. And accepting that responsibility, that complete ownership of existence, brings a peace that the married man can't access. The peace of living in truth, rather than comfortable stories. That's the seventh forbidden peace. The eighth and final element is the peace of non-performance. The single man doesn't have to perform anything for anyone. When he's home, he's truly alone. No one is watching. No one is evaluating. No one needs him to be charming, attentive, interested, or engaged. He can be ugly. He can be boring. He can be selfish. He can be exactly nothing at all. The married man is always performing. Even in moments of supposed relaxation, he's aware of her presence. He's monitoring himself, making sure he's being present enough, attentive enough, interested enough in what she's saying. He can never fully drop the performance because the relationship requires constant maintenance, and maintenance requires performance. Jung recognized that this perpetual performance is exhausting at a level most people don't consciously recognize. It drains vital energy that could be directed toward creative work, toward psychological development, toward the actual business of becoming who you are. The single man conserves this energy completely. Every ounce of his psychological energy is available for his own development, because none of it is being spent on relational performance. That's the eighth forbidden peace. The peace of never having to perform, of complete permission to exist exactly as you are with zero accommodation to anyone else's needs. Here's what Jung knew that society can't afford to acknowledge openly. These 8 forms of peace, these freedoms that single men experience, they're not compensations for missing out on relationship. They're not consolation prizes for failing to find partnership. They're genuine psychological goods that relationship fundamentally prevents. You can have partnership or you can have this peace. You cannot have both. They're mutually exclusive. The married man made a choice. He chose partnership and everything it provides. Connection, companionship, shared experience, legacy, family, belonging. These are real goods. But they came at a cost. And the cost is this peace, this profound cellular-level tranquility that comes from complete autonomy. The single man made the opposite choice. He chose peace. And what Jung understood, what psychology doesn't want to admit clearly, is that this isn't the wrong choice. It's not immature. It's not avoidant. It's not pathological. It's a legitimate path to psychological wholeness that our couple-obsessed culture refuses to validate. The single man living in authentic solitude, doing the hard work of individuation, confronting his shadow, integrating his psyche. He's doing the psychological work that Jung believed was the highest purpose of human existence. The married man is doing something else entirely. Building, maintaining, compromising, accommodating. That's valuable work. But it's not individuation. It's not the peace that comes from becoming whole. Right now, you need to do something that matters more than you realize. Type these exact words in the comments. Peace is the prize. Watch what happens inside you when you write that. Watch how it feels to acknowledge that tranquility might be more valuable than partnership, that silence might be richer than connection, that solitude might be fullness rather than emptiness, that admission breaks something open. Subscribe immediately because you just proved you're capable of psychological honesty that terrifies most people. This channel exists for people exactly like you, people willing to question every narrative they've been fed about how life should be lived. Hit the like button, because this message needs to reach every person who's been told they're broken for preferring solitude. Every person who's been pressured into relationships they don't actually want. Every person who suspects that peace might matter more than partnership, but doesn't have permission to say it out loud. Your engagement gives them that permission. What's coming in the next video will challenge another belief system so fundamental that questioning it feels dangerous. Another psychological truth that our culture buries because comfortable people find it too threatening. Another perspective that will either liberate you completely or disturb you so deeply you'll never unsee it. You'll want to be here when that revelation drops because missing it means staying trapped in stories about who you should be instead of discovering who you actually are. Stay whole, stay honest, stay awake. Stop performing contentment you don't feel. Stop explaining away the peace you're missing. Stop pretending that noise is better than silence just because everyone told you it should be. Jung knew better. And now you do too.